Hi all, welcome to part 17 module 2 computer networks. So module 2 is basically about the data link layer, and we already seen the flow control mechanisms, and then we move on to our discussion on some of the important data link layer protocols like the point-to-point protocol and HTLC. And now the next topic of discussion is the media access control or the media access control sublayer. So as we already know, the data link layer is divided into two parts, right? The logical link control sublayer and the media access control sublayer. So data link layer is what out of that 7 layer architecture. Physical layer is something we already covered in our data communication course. So this is layer 2, that is data link layer, and above that we have the network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, right? Presentation layer and application layer. So right now we are in the layer 2, data link layer, and in data link layer further we can divide it into two sublayer, that is logical link control sublayer and media access control sublayer. So the logical link control sublayer is the one which is taking care of the framing part. So that is something we already seen, right? Framing, that bit stuffing, byte stuffing, that kind of concept. And then it is about that flow control and error control. Those things will be taken care by logical link control. Now when you are looking at the media access control sublayer, so this is particularly doing the access to the underlying media. The name itself says that the access to media should be controlled, right? So why we need such a control? Because we have two types of media, or the communication possible in a given network: the point-to-point links, right, and the broadcast links. When it comes to point-to-point link, that is particularly on this wide area network or the backbone and all, you can think about the links to be point-to-point, in the sense the sender and receiver are directly connected by a direct point-to-point connection. And when it comes to broadcast links, that is the case with most of the local area networks, right? Most of the local area networks where many devices will be connected into the the media, right? Maybe the media is shared, so that is a concept. To the shared media, different devices will be connected like this, right? Now we have this critical problem of media access control, because means as it is point to point, there is no confusion at all. Whenever the sender is sending some information, there is no one in between. It is to be delivered to the receiver, and similarly the reverse communication, say whether it is half duplex or full duplex link accordingly. But when it comes to broadcast link, basically the communication is not one-to-one communication. Here it is a kind of broadcast communication. For example, if A want to communicate something into this device B, which is located here, it will simply broadcast that information through the medium, and everybody will be getting some access to that information, and all of them will check whether it is for me or not. And finally the destination address that is there in the information or the frame being sent by A will get a match with the address of B, and so that B will be understanding that it is for me, and it will take the data. So this kind of a communication is what is happening in any broadcast link. So the main concern here is, so this is about the communication between A and B. Similarly, at the same time, two other devices C and D also want to communicate each other, and they will also send the information to the same shared link, and what will happen? They will get collided, right? So such an issue is there. So there should be some way of controlling access to this particular shared link. So that is the whole intention. So how this access can be controlled, in the sense whenever A and B are communicating each other, there should be some way for C to understand the fact, and each C should not send any information simultaneously with the A. So we are trying to achieve that. So that is the topic of discussion we are going to see now. Let's clear the screen. Yes. So the broadcast channel. So we are mainly worrying about the broadcast channel and not about the point-to-point links, because in point-to-point link all those things are straightforward. Okay. So when it comes to the broadcast link, which are sometimes referred to as the multi-access channels or random access channel. Multi-access in the sense multiple devices are trying to access the link, right? Random access means there is no predefined procedure for it. Everyone will be getting equal probability, like anyone can access the medium at any time. So you can see that randomness there. Yeah, so that about it. So you can call the broadcast channel to be a multi-access channel or a random access channel, and now we are going to control access to such a shared broadcast channel. The protocols used to determine who goes next on a given multicast channel belong to a sublayer of the data link layer is called the media access control sublayer. So what is the core thing about media access control sublayer is the media access control sublayer is concerned with the protocols that determine who goes next on a multicast channel. So the access to the multicast channel is controlled or governed by a set of protocols, and these protocols are part of the media access control sublayer. Okay, so that is that line is little bit confusing, that is why I split it like that. Fine. The media access control sublayer is especially important in local area networks, very important. So we are mainly concerned with the local area network where we are particularly using this broadcast link. And local area network itself, we have wired and wireless variation, and it is more important in case of wireless local area network because they are naturally broadcast in nature. So wired, somehow if you want you can make it point to point kind of local area network itself is possible, but when it comes to wireless, you know, there is no direct connectivity at all, right? So the only possibility for a wireless local area network is to broadcast their information so that the correct receiver can take it from the broadcasted information. Wired local area networks are also made as broadcast link, so that is something easy to implement, but still we can think of a wired local area network that is having that point to point link. Maybe by using some mesh topology and all, you can think of a point to point wired local area network, but it is a costly solution. But particularly when it comes to wireless communication, the only possibility is this broadcasting the information into that wireless local area network. Now if you are looking at wide area network, so which is connecting different small local area networks together, making the backbone of the computer network. So they are in contrast, they are of point to point in nature, or they use point to point links, except for satellite network. So satellite network, you know, it's an example for a wireless variation of this wide area network, and where a kind of broadcasting you can see. So that is something handled in a different way, but anyway most of the wide area network. So here WAN means wide area network, and we are thinking about the wired wide area network, the backbone network. They are mainly point to point links. So they are made up of point to point links. So in the sense, so this will be one local area network, and this will be another local area network, and this is another one. So all of them together will be making the metropolitan area network, and depending on the size, if it is covering more area, so we can call it as a wide area network in general. Now how this wide area network is formed, that is something we already seen in module 1. So here we will be having some set of devices, right? Like the gateway, we can call it as a gateway, or the main device to which all the individual devices of this LAN are communicating their information, or a switching, or a device, or a router, and these routers will be connected by means of point to point link, right? So this is a meaning. So together it is not forming that broadcast way of communication, but if you look at a particular LAN, inside this LAN broadcasting will be happening, and if it want to communicate to the outside world, the information will be collected by this relaying node, right? So this is the one who is doing that relay of information from here to here, and similarly every such a LAN will be having such a relaying node, and or a gateway, or a router, or a switching element. Okay, you can call it in any terminology, and these devices will be connected each other by point to point communication, and using that point to point links, the information will be delivered to the actual LAN where the destination device is residing. So this particular device want to communicate something to this particular device, This will be collected by this relaying node, and it will be relayed to this particular node, and from here it will be broadcasted further, and this will be receiving the information. So hope you get an idea. So what I was trying to say is, inside a local area network we are mainly using broadcasting, but wide area network, the intermediate routing nodes will be connected each other by means of point to point links. So whenever there is broadcast communication, we are worried about the media access control, because if the individual devices are simply sending the information without any control, chances are there for collision. I mean, the signals will collide at each other, and it will simply go erroneous, and that kind of a situation should not be there. So for that we have the media access protocols, which are part of the media access control sublayer of the reference model. So what are all the media access protocols we are looking at? The first one is the Aloha protocol. Aloha, and we will see what it is and all. It is having two variations, the pure Aloha and a slaughtered Aloha, which is an improved version over the pure Aloha. We will see this in detail, and right now I am just telling you the names only. I mean, a big picture. And the second category, which is improved over the Aloha protocol, is Carrier Sense Multiple Access Protocol, CSMA protocol. So as the name itself says, that they are capable of sensing the carrier, that is underlying media, and the media is found to be free, they will start sending the data. So in Aloha, such a sensing is absent, so that is what makes Aloha protocol weaker compared to CSMA protocol. And CSMA itself is having many variations, and we will depending on time we will look into the variations like on persistent CSMA, non-persistent CSMA, P-persistent CSMA, CSMA with the collision detection, that is CD, and CSMA with the collision avoidance, CA. And this CSMA bar CD is something popularly used in the so-called Ethernet, the IEEE 802.3 protocol, right? 802.3 protocol. And the CSMA bar CA you can see in Wi-Fi, the wireless local area network, standardized by IEEE 802.11. So that about it, and we will see. I think CSMA bar CD is something highlighted in your syllabus. CA, if time allows, I will be covering it. And we have something called the collision free protocols also. I mean, in the above two category, Aloha and the carrier sense protocol, carrier sense multiple access protocols, collisions will be there, and we have mechanism for dealing with the collision. But if it is a collision free protocol, of course it is a very robust one, but we are achieving it with some extra cost, and that we will see. Two variations are there, a bitmap protocol and a token passing protocol, and this token passing protocol itself come under two variations, the token ring kind of protocol and token bus protocol. We will see them, and actually this list is not ending like this. Even in we have other than these three main category, we have other multiple access protocols were there, and also collision free itself in the textbook itself many were discussed, but those things are not so important, and we have a limitation on covering everything. So that is why I thought of giving you a brief idea about the most important categories of media access protocols, and we will try to cover these. We will start our discussion with the Aloha protocol. So it is contributed by Norman Abramson. So that is name of the person who is behind this protocol, and some people are calling this protocol, but in the textbook it is not mentioned like that. That is why I didn't write in the presentation. So if you want, you can call this protocol expansion to be Abramson logic, L for logic of hiring access. I mean, something like to get access, we have a logic proposed by this particular person, Norman Abramson, in 1970, and his colleagues, of course, at the University of Hawaii in the year 1970. And they were trying to connect users on a remote islands to the main computers on this is a particular place in where they are residing, and so where we have a central computer, and remote islands were there, from machines from remote islands, they were trying to connect to this central computer being located at this Honolulu, that particular place. And for that purpose, when they tried to connect by means of broadcast kind of communication, they faced the difficulty of media access, and they proposed a method to deal with it. So that is what they call as the Aloha protocol. So it is applicable to any system in which the uncoordinated users are competing for the use of a single shared channel. So the users are uncoordinated, there is no proper coordination among them, just like what we already seen, and they were trying to access a shared communication channel. So channel is broadcast or the shared one. And we have two variations for the Aloha protocol, the pure Aloha and the slotted Aloha. We will see them in detail. And these two variations, that is pure and slotted Aloha, differ with respect to whether the time is continuous, whether it is treating the time as a continuous time to be continuous, as in the pure version. So in pure Aloha, you can see that the time is treated as continuous, where when it comes to slotted Aloha, the time is being divided into discrete slots into which the frames are supposed to fit. So that about the slotted Aloha. Some detail about the pure Aloha. The basic idea of an Aloha system is simple. It let the users transmits whenever they have data to send. So we are not restricting any device on the time of data transmission. Whenever I have some data, without any checking or without any guidance, simply I will send my data. So that is the first thing. So whenever I am having data, I will simply send the data, right? Now there will be collisions, of course, because you are not taking any care, you don't know what is happening in the road, simply you are sending the your information, someone else will be already sending their data. So collisions will be there, natural, and the colliding frames will be damaged. So we are ready to deal with such situation. If we have a collision and if we have damaged frame, we can handle them. Now the senders need some way to find out if this is the case, and if collision is there, there should be some way of tracking them. By definitely after collision, the signals will be something different from what is being sent by the sender, and they can see that difference, and accordingly they can track there is something happened to the signal. So in Aloha system, after each station has sent the frame to the central computer, so like what we already seen, so they were trying to connect the machines of remote islands to some central machine located at a place, so something like that. So here they assume a model where the when two machines want to communicate to each other, what they will do, so A want to communicate with B, and there is a central device, right? There is a central device, and there is no direct communication. Instead the communication will be through this central shared device. So A will be sending its information to this central device, and he will forward it further to B. Similarly, from reply he will take and he will send back to A. So like that. Similarly, C and D want to communicate to each other, same thing. He will send that information to central device, and he will relay that information to that D. So that is a way. So it is fully depending on the central device. So that kind of a model they assumes. Now a sending station can thus listens for the broadcast from the hub. The shared central device is what they call as a hub, to see if its frame let me clear it. Okay, if its frame has gotten through or not. So the thing is that if I started sending my data to the central device, right, actually the communication is from A to B. Okay, so B is waiting here. So what I will do is this is my information is being sent to the central hub, right? Now I want to verify whether it actually reached the central hub or not. How I can verify that? Whenever the hub is getting it, the hub will be transferring my information to B, right? As you already know, hub is just a central point. It is not able to look at the destination address and all and correctly forward the data. Then we call it as switch. So that is something capable of looking at the address and forward the data. But here in case of hub, what it can do, if it want to send the information to B, it will simply broadcast to everyone, and out of them who is having the address checking is something a responsibility of the destination device. So that is a basic idea. So the destination device is supposed to take the every frame which is getting, and to cross check whether it is my address in the address field or not. If so, it will take the data. So that kind of a communication is what is happening in broadcast. So here also the central device will be, so this from A it will be unicasting the information to the central device, but once the central device is getting it, it will broadcast to everyone, and B will be taking the data. And now this broadcast information will be coming to A also, right? So when it is broadcasting to this one, everyone, it will be broadcasting back to A also. And when that broadcast message is coming back to A will understand that yes, there is no problem with my communication. What I tried to send is delivered to the center, and now the central device is broadcasting it, right? So in that way, A will understand that its data successfully reached the central device, and then after broadcast, it will be reached at B also. So like that, it will assume and it will proceed happily. So if the frame was destroyed on the way, means without checking the situation of the underlying media, A is just sending the data, right? So on the way the data can be collided with someone else's data, and it may destroy it. Then the sender waits some random amount of time and sends the information again. So how the sender will understand that there is some problem, the data get destroyed, because it is not getting the broadcasted reply from the central device, right? And that time it will assume that something happens to my data, and it will wait. This is again important. It is not going to wait for some fixed amount of time. Simply the waiting is random. So that is again you have to keep in mind, random in the sense, if two devices, I mean A and B start sending something to central devices and their data get collided each other, and the amount of time A will wait for the second delivery, and the amount of time that B will wait for its second retransmission will be different, right? So that is why we call it as random. So the chances of further collision we can control, because if both of them, hope you understand it, two devices are trying to communicate with some other two devices. So to the link, say A sends some data, B also sends some information, that is the case, and they get collided, right? Now what will happen, both A and B get to know that there is collision. So how they are get to know the presence of collision is a different thing. So here it is depending on the reply from the broadcast reply from the central device, but it can identify the collision in a number of ways that we will see one by one later on. But for the time being, you can assume that both A and B understand that there is collision for the data that is being sent by A and B. Now what A and B will do, if both of them are deciding like I will wait for some 5 seconds, I will also wait for some 5 seconds, and then they will send, definitely it is going to collide again, right? So when randomness is introduced, randomly some number will be selected by A, say 5, and that much time A will wait, and B is going to select randomly some different number, right? Say 10, and it will be waiting for 10, so that second time when they are trying each other, the chances of collision will be less. But randomness itself, if both A and B are selecting the same random amount of time, so that is a very very worst scenario that you don't have to think in that way, okay? So by introducing randomness, we can reduce the chances of further collision, of course. So that about it. Now the waiting time must be random, or the same frame will collide over and over in lockstep. If it is not random, the further collisions are possible, but as it is random, that we can control. Now the systems in which the users share a common channel in a way that can lead to conflicts are known as such system. So here you can see without any control they are sending, without any prior checking until they are sending the information, and simply so the type of system that we are dealing with, not in Aloha, CSMA, everywhere we can call it as contention system, in the sense all of them are trying to share a common channel, and the sharing is going to have some conflict at some later point. So such systems are generally known to be contention system that you can. So normally in contention system you can see this randomness, right? Now, let us assume that the frames are all of fixed length because the throughput of Aloha system is maximized by having uniform frame size rather than by allowing variable length frames. So, how the throughput of Aloha is improved by fixed size frame, that we are not discussing. So, you can just think of like this, or we have two variations of frame. We can either think of a fixed size frame for everyone. So, the model will be easy and efficiency will be high when we have such an assumption. But in practical cases, definitely the frames are of variable size, and accordingly we have to change the model. So what we are going to discuss now onwards, I mean in this pure Aloha, is based on the assumption that the frames are of fixed length. If they are of variable length, it is to be handled in a different way that we are not covering. Okay. So when two frames try to occupy the channel at the same time, it is said to have a collision and both of them will be garbled. Now, if the first bit of a new frame overlaps with just the last bit of a frame that has almost finished, both frames will totally destroyed and both will have to be retransited again. So, the thing is like, so I am sending some information and the first, second, third, all the bits were delivered correctly. I mean, my frame is almost about to finish, but so let it be the end bit I am trying to send. So when I try to send the end bit, that time immediately a second party started sending his data, his first bit. So this end bit is getting collided with the one bit. That itself is enough, in the sense both the frames are now useless, right? So we don't want all the bits to collide each other. Just a single bit collision is enough, by which we can see that the both frames are now useless. So that is what they are trying to say, the first bit of a new frame. So that is a new frame, this one, and the is get collided with the last bit of the frame that is almost finished. The all other bits are being received at the receiver side. Only the last bit remains. So both are destroyed completely. Even a single bit change, we are because there is error, right? The information will be interpreted differently, and both of them has to retransmit the information again. So the checksum does not distinguish between the total loss and near miss. So what happened here is a near miss, right? Only a single bit error. But the total loss is something, all bits are getting collided. And that is something we can't distinguish between a total loss and near miss, and we can selectively send that bit. That kind of things were not there. The only way we can do is whether the entire frame is erroneous or not. If so, a single bit error means, of course, the total frame you have to retransmit. So bad is bad always, whether it is one bit or all bits, bits. So that about it. I mean, so everything is about the model we are going to discuss, but we can have a variations of it. Okay. So frame transmission in pure Aloha. So you can see the transition is happening in some arbitrary time. There is no time, like at what time what should happen, like that. No time constraints we have. Randomness, arbitrary data transmission. So that is how the things are proceeding. So here you can see that A, B, C, D, E, 4 users were there and they were sending their frame, and see this is the so let us assume the time to be in the horizontal line, right? And initially you can see that at the beginning of the time we have the frame of E, and see on the same duration there is no other data get generated, right? So it is a collision free frame. But after some time, or actually if the time is progressing like this, this D actually started sending the data first time, and that escaped nicely, and following that D, this E is trying to send and A is also trying to send. So like that the information is proceeding. So let's analyze from this point. So what happened here is, at this time, see, this shaded area is actually collision is being represented by the shade area. That means the last or the when you assume it like so let it be the first. So whenever I am having a frame like this, right, so let it be the first bits followed by the first bit, second bit, third bit, like that. The end bit is at the back side. If that is the case, the first few bits of A get collided with the last few bits of B. Similarly, the first few bits of B, not first, something more than half of first half of B get collided with the last half of D. So here you can see this portion get collided with this portion. Similarly, this get collided with this. And here also you can see that collision in the shaded area, and these frames are collision I mean, they escaped from the collision and they are nicely going. So whenever there is collision, wait for some random amount of time and try retransmitting it. So that is the idea of Aloha protocol. Okay, with this we will end up. So what we discussed here is media access control protocol. We started our discussion with the pure Aloha. Now in the subsequent session we will see its efficiency, and we will try to derive the efficiency of pure Aloha, and we can try to improve it by introducing a concept called slotted Aloha. Thank you.